Hello, and welcome to another episode of the So Are We Doing Life podcast. Today we have the amazing Glenn Smith here with us. He's an entrepreneur, a master NLP practitioner, and he has so many other things that he's done in his life. So I will let him tell a little bit about himself so that you can hear all of the amazing things that he has done.
Well, it's a pleasure being here, and I want to thank you so much. Not to get too much into my accolades, but I'm a Marine, prior law enforcement, prior bodyguard for some rich and famous people. Um, I've had quite a bit of success in my life, but what I'm here to talk to you today about is growth, is getting to the next level, getting past where you're at right now and identifying those things that are holding you back, so that you can live your best life possible, have the best year of 2025 than you've ever had before.
Thank you so much. And I think that's a really good place to start because as I told you before we started, I decided that post-election, after seeing everybody's high emotions, that I would start a little challenge with my audience called the Legacy Builder Initiative. And really, we're just talking about how can you make a difference, not just with the world, but with yourself, because as we know, growth starts with yourself, making a change starts with yourself, and you can't make a change in the world if you're not in a good place.
Where do we go from there? You're exactly right. This election, man, I have seen more hate from both sides that, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because that has been the agenda of the powers to be, is to turn people against each other and have it sells, drama sells. But here's the bottom line. And we talked about this in a different time. I challenge you to go and take the last four presidents and look at the things that they have really accomplished. Not what you have heard, but I want you to do the research yourself to see the facts about what each president has signed, what they have turned away, what they have done to help us in the United States of America. Regardless of your color, regardless of your age, I want you to actually do your research because so many people are carrying hatred and hurt and harm right now, and they don't know what they're talking about. They're carrying this, it's not factual data, or the data is skewed. And the reason that I'm like this is because I can tell you four, maybe five times in my life that I have been involved in altercations across the world. And I saw the news. I saw the news that was reported, and it was not what happened because I was there. I was there and I saw it. So when I'm talking to you, I'm talking to you from experience. That really changed my view on how I see things because I don't just go off of what I hear. I don't allow myself to get worked up off of data that I don't know is true because there's so much out there and there's so many. It's so easy for the powers to be to push you in the direction that they want you to be.
And I think media really is skewed by the publisher or the writer. Like whoever is writing the story, whoever is publishing the story, they have their own agenda. Even if they're unaware that they have an agenda, even if they're unaware that it's biased, they have their own biases and they everything is skewed toward whatever their outcome is, whatever their goal is, whatever they think the story is. And so sometimes they don't, sometimes it's not on purpose, sometimes it's just because they think that it's this way and that's the way they report it. And then other times it's on purpose, you know?
Well, the other thing you have to do is you have to also look at the companies, like look at the companies, who owns them, where they're getting their money from, who funds them. When you start looking at those things, you kind of your eyes open up quite a bit.
And I think that you and I come from a time when media was different, because, and I think that this is one of those things where technology has changed it a little bit because now technology is at our fingertips. We see it everywhere. Um, and I think it's a little bit harder for media to I shouldn't say harder. I think it was easier before technology for media to kind of control the narrative, but I also think it was a time when media wanted to hear the truth because it wasn't coming at you anywhere. So you had reporters that were out there trying to find the real story. And I think we have so much media coming at us, so much information coming at us, that the real story isn't necessarily what's important anymore. It's just the story. What's going to get you views? What's going to get you likes? What's going to get you the audience, you know?
Right, because if somebody walks up to me and hits me with a baseball bat and I shoot them, and the only thing that you see, the only clip that you see is me shooting the person, that's a totally different story than what really happened. And that's what happens a lot. A lot of times they show you a partial of what they want you to see. And then you're like, oh, but I saw that. Well, you didn't see the whole thing. Like if you saw the whole thing, then it would make a little bit more sense. So I just challenge you to um, be careful about the feelings that you have and the emotions that you're carrying, because they do affect you. They affect your life. They affect the way that you um, are seen in this world, and the things that are going to happen to you next.
And that takes us back to your whole your whole thought process in on growth, right? And how we grow and how we perceive things is definitely based on how we grow and who we are internally. Because I think you can watch someone's journey and see where they are, right? And as they start going through that journey to work on themselves, their perception starts to change. Their perception of the world, their perception of what they take in, their perception of what they believe changes.
Absolutely. Listen, you can see, I've been doing videos probably for the last 7 years, 8 years, and you can see my view change on some things because I've grown, because I've gotten experience, because I've educated myself even more. So that's what we're supposed to do. But and I'm so glad you said that. Here's the biggest thing is that you got to know why you believe what you believe. And you have to, when you go to something, go with an empty cup. I can't tell you how many times I thought something was something and it turned out to be something completely different. But I see and I listen to so many people that are just, I'm this and this is the way it is. And well, but you have data that goes against it. You have statistical data in front of you that says that that's not true, right? So don't just believe something to believe it, or don't just think that because you thought it was that way before that it is that way now. Always empty your cup, always grab the real data, the facts, and then form an opinion based on the things that are presented to you today, because the way that you thought 5 years ago is probably going to be different, or should be different. If there's any type of growth, you should be thinking from a different perspective uh, than then.
You said something really important there. You said the data and pay attention to the data and where you get the data from. And you said that earlier too. And I just want to come back to that because I think that is a really big part of misinformation is we're not paying attention to who's giving us the information. I mean, if we want to look at and I know you'll understand this. This is a military term that we always say. If you want to listen to Joe Snuffy in his basement being a keyboard warrior telling you this information, or do you want to listen to a reliable source who has proven time and time again that they have reliable information?
It's the way you do it. And I always tell people, show me. That's what changed me big time, because I said something one time and the guy said, okay, show me what you're talking about. And I couldn't find it. Okay, so I'm giving stuff that I heard. And I thought, here's the deal. Your brain will make you think that you know it's the truth, because you tell yourself enough, then it's the truth, then it's the truth, whether it's the truth or not. But if you can't find it, if you can't show the data to prove what you're talking about, then you're wrong. And you need to
And
correct yourself and step away from that frame of thought.
and I think that's such a big thing that happened with the election is you had such a mix of things happening. And this is such a weird time of the elections, right? We're coming off of post-COVID. We're coming off of all of these different changes because if you think about it, yeah, okay, we have Biden and he was the president, but let's rewind a little bit because we're still coming off of this whole change that we weren't used to of having a Black president, right? Like, so we have a lot of changes. So we're moving from Okay, let's just skip over the Biden part because a lot happened during Biden's presidency. But let's talk about the changes that happened before and after because I think that's really where we're living. We came from essentially having a black president to having a possible woman president, like a real candidate that people thought could actually win. And then you have all the in between of people's emotions and how they feel about Trump, and then all of the other things that happened during Biden's presidency and during Trump's presidency with women's rights and reproductive rights and just everything in between. And I think there was so much that happened in the past 8 years that it's hard to say how many people were looking at the facts and how many people were going off of emotion. And I think even now, this was really an emotionally charged election. I think it was definitely more based on emotions than maybe facts because people were thinking about how they feel about the issues instead of what are the facts about the issues and where do I stand. I don't know if a lot of people really took the stance of where do I actually stand from this politically, legally, or where do I stand from this emotionally. And I think that in a few years, when everybody kind of calms down some, people on both sides are going to feel different about how they feel now. I think there's going to be a difference because their minds are going to start to settle down. And I think some of that chaos is going to come down. And then they're going to start thinking, wow, did I make those choices? Did I say these things? Did I post that on social media for the world to see?
Well, and I tell you, I challenge you to ask yourself before you get embarrassed by someone else, ask yourself, show me the facts. You're feeling this way. Where is the statistical data to prove what you're thinking? Because a lot of times, what you're thinking is not true. It's a piece of it. That's how they give you a piece of it. And then there's only a small piece of what's going on. So if you're feeling a certain way, well, I feel that so and so is this, because what? Well, because, and then write the things down and then go and find the facts to go with the case. Here's one, here's the facts. Here's two, here's the facts. So that you're now educated and that you actually know why you're feeling the way you're feeling. And as you dig, I'm fairly certain you're going to see that, oh, that wasn't the whole thing. Or,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I only had a piece of it, and then we can come together as a team. We can come together as a country, and be unified. And granted, nobody's going to be perfect. Yes, you're going to find so you can find something on everybody. You can find something on Obama. You can find something on everybody. That's just how it is. We are imperfect people, right? But when you take the whole total sum of where we are and the issues at hand, you should know why you're feeling what you're feeling, and you should have statistical data to back it up.
And I think a lot of times when we look at elections, or at least in my experience, there are usually things that I agree with both candidates. And I think for me, it's really about taking that step back and saying, do I like this candidate or do I like their policy? Because I think there's a massive difference. I can like you as a person all day long, but does that mean that I think you're going to do a good job? And at that point, am I voting for you as a candidate or am I voting for your policy? And I think that's where people start having this conflict with each other. And I think that's how we got so divided as a nation. Like, I feel like we're in this weird twilight zone where we went back in time, but we have all this weird technology. So it's like, what happened?
Well, I don't remember which war it was, but in one of the wars, we would drop newspapers over the enemy's camp. Propaganda. We would have radio stations blaring stuff. Propaganda. What you see and what you hear, people tend to believe whether it's true or not. There's so much propaganda out there, and there's so many things that are just not true, that has no statistical facts behind it, but people have bought onto it because it's so much easier to just say, oh, this is the truth, rather than digging up and seeing, okay, is this true? Why is this true? Did this really happen? Is this what's really going on?
And I think that For the propaganda part, that's not just us. That's like a worldview. Like when we do that propaganda, especially for us, like here in the United States, I have a lot of friends who are not in the US. And I have this one friend, he's really funny. He lives in Canada, but he's from Korea. And he's like, so the perception, he's like, it's so funny when he moved from Korea to Canada, he was like, his perception changed because he was like, I had this whole thought about the US because I just knew that what I was getting, the information that I was seeing was correct. And he was like, and then I moved to Canada and I visited the US and I was like, wait, what's happening?
None of that. None of that. Yep.
Yeah. And it was just so it made me think, wow, because we don't realize what we're putting out here is also how like fake news, real news, propaganda. What we put out is also what we are telling the world how to view us as a
True.
nation. They don't get to see the good stuff because nobody wants to hear the good stuff. We don't want to hear about the good things people are doing about each
Right.
other because that doesn't sell. That's not
Right.
drama.
Right.
No one
It's
wants
not
that.
drama. And people want drama. But my whole purpose in all of this is helping people understand that it goes deeper than just this thing. How the emotions that you house on the inside of you, the emotions that you allow, that you carry with you, affects your day to day life. Like this goes, take politics aside because obviously there's so many secrets and there's so many things that we don't know. Take all that aside. My point in talking about this, because I can't stand politics, but my point in talking about this is I've seen so many people worked up. If you voted for this person, don't ever talk to me again. If it delete myself from the thing, or just so much hatred. Well, guess what? You are a creator, and so now you're putting that out in the world, and you're saying, "Give me more of that." Give me more. I want more hate. I want more discontent. I want more reasons to be mad. I want more reason because you're putting that energy out there. So why, if it's fake, if you don't have the real, if you don't have the truth, now you're messing your life up for what? Like you
But
have to be cognizant of how you feel at all times because how you feel will affect what you do, and then what you do affects the results that you're going to get in life.
And we can all have this. I want to go back to a time when we can all say, let's agree to disagree and move on. How do we still work together? And it's like something happened and we forgot that we can do that. Why do we have to be enemies? Because we have different points of views. Why can't we figure out how to find some middle ground? Why can't we all make a sacrifice or just all figure out how to make it work? Because what is the end goal? The end goal doesn't have necessarily anything to do with either of our personal opinion. We have this thing that we want to do, that we have this way that we want to improve the world. We have something, you know, some type of goal, some type of something that we want. Why can't we figure out how to work together? Because if we're sitting here constantly putting out the negativity, constantly receiving the negativity, all we're going to get is negativity and we're never going
Negativity.
to accomplish anything.
Period. Period. And a lot of the stuff is distractions for other stuff that's going on. So the bottom line is happiness is a choice. You have to choose to be happy. You have to make that choice that, okay, we're going to make the best out of whatever situation that we're in. We're going to make the best out of it and then find ways to be part of the problem. I mean, part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Like, stop whining and complaining about something that is already done. The past is gone. All you have is the present. So it's done. It's done. What's done is done. Now, what am I doing today to make tomorrow better? And whining and moaning and complaining is not making tomorrow better. It's not making today better. So, what am I going to do? Where am I going to find? Where am I going to put my head? What am I going to dive into? How am I going to serve? How am I going to love so that my tomorrow is going to be the best that I could ever make it, if that makes sense?
It does. And you said something to me before. I'm not sure if you said it this time or when we've had a previous conversation, but you said that we're so focused when you were talking about focusing on the past and focusing on the future. And you said, right now is all we have because tomorrow is the present. And I think that is so insightful because that's where the growth happens, right? In the present. The growth doesn't happen. You don't realize you grew in the past
Right.
You realize
There,
you grew right now.
right. There is nothing. It's gone. Yesterday is nothing. Yesterday is nothing. And I can't do anything with tomorrow because it ain't here. All we have is this simple moment. This right now. And you have to listen, when you start seeing your brain going, it's okay to plan and it's okay to learn from our mistakes. But when you see yourself staying stuck in those moments where you're carrying the weight of yesterday or carrying the weight of what may happen in your brain, get present. So how do we get present? How can we get present? What you do is you find something to focus on right now. So if you're laying in the bed, oh, this bed is so comfortable. Oh, this pillow is so comfortable right now. Oh, I'm so snuggly. I love this blanket. This blanket keeps me nice and warm. I'm in the present. I'm in the moment. I'm here. You gotta find your things to focus on. Oh, the sky is so beautiful. Man, look at that cloud. You're bringing yourself back to the present because the present moment is the only place where you can make change. That's it. It's the only place that matters. So you got to find ways to bring yourself present so that then you can affect change.
And that's really good for especially now in 2025 because we're always, how often do you go somewhere and you see this? And no one's actually paying attention. They're just
On the phone.
recording. So they're not living in the moment. They're focused on getting the moment captured, right? And we we don't actually realize, but we're stunting our growth by doing that because we're still not getting the experience. We're missing out on the journey because we're trying to record the journey.
Yeah, yeah, it that's deep. And that's the truth. You got to find ways to be present, you know. I love being able to capture the moment, but you still have to find that time to center yourself and put all those things away and be present, even in relationships, even in your job. All you just sometimes you got to put all this stuff away and just get in the moment and find yourself being, how am I feeling right now? What am I thinking right now? What am I doing right now? Right now, this second. And how is that affecting? How is that helping me? How is that how is that putting me in the direction of where I want to go and who I want to be? Who am I being right now?
And checking in with yourself, really checking in with yourself, like not just I had this boss, and this is what I mean by checking in with yourself and checking in with people. I had this boss, and I loved it. I loved watching people's reaction to his reaction. You know how when you say, "Hey, how you doing?" and people just say, "I'm fine." That was never his answer. It was always something crazy like, "Oh, not so great today." Or even if he was having a great day, that was his response. He would always give you something else, and people, and watching people's reaction, they don't know what to do with that
Right,
because
because you're in the motion.
hmm they're like, the first time that he did it to me, I was like, "Oh, are you okay?" And he was like, "Literally, you're the only one that asked me that today." He was like, everybody else was like, "Okay, have a good day." So his point was we don't listen to ourselves and we don't listen to others. We're not in the moment. And then he actually had a meeting. He did this for a week. Every day he asked us the first time that he did it. And at the end of the week, he actually told us who actually checked in. And people were sitting there at the table surprised because they were like, "I didn't even know you said that."
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of times we're just going through the motion or we're asking a question thinking about how we're going to respond. I
Mm-hmm.
took a class about being present and listening, and I said if you are already formulating your answer or thinking about, how you're going to respond, you're not present, you're not paying attention. So it's taking the brain and bringing it back and okay, I'm looking you eye to eye, I'm focused on you. We're here in this moment. Hey, how are you doing?
And I think just that alone, being present, especially if you're not used to being present, will accelerate your personal growth on levels that you're not even aware of, that you didn't even know could happen. Just that one thing. That's not even doing all the work. That's just being in the moment and being aware.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And There's nothing to replace it. There's nothing that can replace being present. Like but that's where everything happens. That's what you got to understand. The important, like, why do I need to do? You need to do that because that's where everything happens. You want change, you want to grow, you want to get better, you want more money, you want that love. You got to get present because right now is all you have. So if your brain is somewhere else, you're missing the opportunity. You're missing the little whisper in your ear. Go this way, do that, talk to this person. You're missing it because you're not present.
That's deep.
I mean, think about how we connected. Like I was never on that thread ever. I've seen it in 5 million times, but I was present. I was present, and I just got done with my meditation and said, go click on that. Okay, because
That's really
I don't scroll. I don't do all that stuff in my personal life. I'm like, okay, I'll do it, and look, here we are.
That's really funny because how I even got there is sometimes I'll post something little and then I'll come back. I won't come back for weeks. But one of my friends actually, she used it to make some connections in her wellness business. She also has a wellness business. And she was like, it really worked. And I was like, okay, whatever. And so, I don't know if you know the trend. That's how I started with the trend. It's dear algorithm, could please connect me with. And I was like, whatever, like 10 people are going to reply, whatever. And I did it. And not only did I get a huge response that I'm still going through, but
Yeah,
I connected with people that I feel like are authentically on the same frequency that I'm on, the same path. And I think that if I didn't take the moment to really be in the moment and think about it and not just like sometimes I just post, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But I really took the time to be in the moment and really think about what I wanted to do, what I wanted to say, who I wanted to connect with. And I think when we are intentional about our actions, first off, I think being intentional with your actions forces you to be present because you can't be intentional if you're not present.
right. Because you can't do it. Right, right,
But I
right.
think it also forces you to be honest with yourself. Like, what do you really want? Who are you really? What is it that you're really saying? Because I've done posts before and I'm like, oh, no, nothing happened because I wasn't intentional, because it wasn't really resonating with what I wanted or what I
Yeah,
wanted to say.
you
And
were
I
just
think
doing.
that, hmm, sorry.
So you were just doing.
Yes. And then I feel like, you always say I am. And I think that was one of my I am moments. I am a person who wants to authentically connect with people who have something to say, something to help people, and
Yes.
I got it.
And you will continue to get it. Like that's it's rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. You do the same thing, and everybody can. And the cool part is, it doesn't matter who you are. It works for everybody. You get to the point where you're able to be present and stop just going with the emotions and know, why am I feeling this way? Why am I? First of all, what am I thinking, and why am I thinking it? That's the key. What am I thinking, and why am I thinking it? I did a thing when I started this journey is I set a alarm on my phone for every 2 hours throughout the whole day, and it said, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? How are you feeling right now? Because until you get the programming is so powerful that you could just go through the motions and you're all over the place. But until you learn to be present with yourself and who you are, why am I feeling this way right now? What am I thinking about? What am I doing? Why am I feeling this way? So that is the way to get present is, whoa, stop. Take a second to stop and ask yourself the questions.
I only giggled because I started working when I first started working in my business, I was also working full-time job. And then when I went full-time into my business, I didn't set it for every 2 hours, but I randomly set alarms. That's why, like before we started, I told you, let me make sure none of my alarms are on because I randomly set alarms throughout the day. So my alarm will just randomly go off and it says, be mindful, have a mindful thought, check in with yourself because you have to, or you just get stuck in going through the motions.
Yeah, and then the day is over and you've not accomplished the things that you want. But
Hmm.
the minute you learn to be intentional with your thoughts and intentional with your actions and intentional, all day. The more that you are able to center yourself to be intentional, you will see rapid growth like this. You will wonder why things are coming to you so fast because you're out of the programming. You've
Hmm.
allowed yourself to get through and learn. You've allowed yourself to get through and use the power that you have to create the life that you want.
You made me think of something so funny, and it's kind of along that same line. So, my parents, all of my parents' children went into the military. All of us, we're all like military brats. We just kind of followed through. We all have our different reasons, and then we all came out, and we all realized the same thing. We all had the same thought process, different points in our life. I definitely came to it first. Maybe it's because I'm the oldest, but I was like, I don't want to work in a traditional work setting. This life is not for me.
Not for me.
Right?
It's not for me. Mm-mm.
But my brother, my kid brother, he started earlier this year and he was like, I'm just going to do this accelerated program, get some experience so I can work. He was like, because I feel like I was stuck in the matrix. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I was just getting up, working out, eating, going to work, go home, repeat. He said, and I don't feel, he was like, I don't know where the time was going. He was like, it was just slipping away from me. Time was passing. He was like, but I wasn't doing anything. And he said, and I feel like he was like, I wasn't having thoughts. I was just going through the motions. I wasn't paying attention to myself. And he said, and I stepped out of the matrix. He was like, now I take time to meditate. I take time to think about things. He was like, I have all these thoughts in my head that I didn't even know I had because I was just going through the motions. And I just think it's so funny because he's really big right now on the, hey, if they want to stay stuck in the matrix, they're going to be there until they decide that they want to make changes. And he was like, think thoughts. He always says, he was like, when you just basically, rinse, repeat, you're not thinking thoughts.
No. And I tell my clients all the time, like, you can tell yourself what to think. The brain is gonna work no matter what. I think it's like 40,000 thoughts a day. I don't know the number, but it's gonna give you the thoughts. But you don't have to entertain them. You can tell it what to think. And that's the key is telling yourself what to think about. Telling yourself, you're asking the right questions to send your brain because it's gonna go anyway. So you might as well have it go in the direction that you want it to go to live the life that you want to live. Right? So you do that by asking the right questions. So many people are in a bad place because they're asking the wrong questions, if they're asking questions at all. Ask the right questions and will lead to the right answers, and that's freedom.
And also they're either focused on the wrong things or focused on nothing. They're just they think they're focused. And then when they start doing that work and they start doing all the other things, that's when they realize, wait a minute,
Yeah,
now I'm
wait a minute.
focused.
Yep, yep.
And then they start, and it's so great. Like when you're coaching someone and working with them and you see the difference in them, it's really great. But there's something to be said about seeing the growth in yourself and realizing, whoa, I can't believe that's who I used to be. There's
Ah, I can tell you. Oh my goodness, I can tell you. Yeah, yeah, I understand that. I don't disagree with that. But that's what this is all about, right? That's
hmm
where the joy comes. Like, so when you're in that pine box and it's just you, those are the things you think about. How did I grow? How did I become? What did I do? How did I leave my legacy? Like what type of legacy did I leave? Like who was I while I was here? And taking a second to get centered and taking a second to get present helps you live that legacy or leave that legacy that you want to leave.
When I was younger, I was a CNA and I worked part of we had a hospice wing. And the one thing that I always notice is that people always talked about all the things they wish they would have done. Like they never talk about all the things they've done. They always talk about all the things that they wish they would have done and all the times that they wish that they didn't hold themselves back, but I've never heard anyone say, my life was great because, and I'm not saying that they didn't have great lives, but I think that's not where their focus was. Their focus was on all the things they didn't do, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. And for those of you who don't know, I am a paramedic of 13 years and I've seen so much stuff and I've had the opportunity to talk to those people and a lot of people on their deathbed. And that is what they talk about, the could have, the should have, the would have, but didn't. And when you are stuck in the program and you're not allowing yourself to get centered and you are not allowing yourself to be present, you're not making yourself get present, and you're stuck in the past and you're worried about the future, and all the things right in front of you are falling apart. You keep doing that day in and day out, day in and day out. One month turns to a year, which turns to 5 years, turn to 10 years, and the next thing you know, it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
So don't let that be you. Like, get present. Like, go after the things that you want to go after. Is it all going to work all the time? Absolutely not. But that's part of it, right? You learn what don't work. Like, you got to be okay with. I don't even call it failing. You got to be okay with
Mm-hmm.
learning what works and learning what doesn't work, and learning, "Oh, man, I'm not going to do that again." Or if you like me, you're hard headed and you probably do it 3 or 4 times, but you finally get it. But the key is you're going towards something, like you're living a life that has meaning and direction, and you're not just going with the flow, and you're not just mad at this person because that person's mad at them, or you're not just going because I heard this on the news and that. No, know what you're thinking about, know who you are, know where you're going, know what you want out of life, and set the course, set the plan to go after it, and each day be present to take a step towards that direction.
And I think when you do that work on yourself and you know, like you said earlier, when you know who you are, when you know what your goal is, when you know what your focus is, there's nothing that can stop you from doing it, because what is for you is for you. It's going to come to you, but you have to also go toward it. You can't just wait for it to come to you without putting in the work, without knowing where you stand. Because if you don't know who you are, then how do you know what's supposed to come for you? Something might come to you that's supposed to be yours, but you don't know because you don't know who you are and where you stand.
Happens all the time. And I will say this, I don't think that everything is always there at all times, but I do think it always comes back around. I think,
Hmm.
things come in seasons. So, you may have just missed your season. Now it's time to prep for when the next one opens, because it's going to come around. Just don't be in the same spot that you are now for when it does come around.
Agreed. We've talked for quite a bit. I'm inviting you now. We definitely will have you back on another episode. I absolutely love everything that you do. And if you don't know what Glenn does, please check him out. I will leave all of his contact information. I will leave how to get in touch with him. If you don't know, if you can't find it, reach out to me and I will connect you. But before we go, any last words?
You are the most powerful of all creation. That's my words. You are the most powerful of all creation. You have something that a lot of other things don't, and that's a brain, and that is a spirit. That is you have such power already within you, just the way that you are now. You don't have to go buy it, you don't have to do anything to get it. It's there. It is housed in you. You just have to learn how to use it. And that's what I do. I help people find that power, to notice it, and then use it to live the life that they deserve.
Thank you so much. And please just tell everyone how they can work with you if they want to work with you.
You
Just a
can
few
find me
different
on
ways.
you can find me on any platform with Glenn Smith Jr., mostly Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Glen Smith Jr. You can find me there. Send me a DM, or you can email me at glenn@glensmithjr.com. That's glenn@glensmithjr.com. I would love to work with you, sit down, talk with you, see if we're a good fit. But let's get it. Let's get it. The time is now. There's no time to waste. There's no time to wait. The time is now.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you again for joining us. And we will definitely have you back on some future episodes. Maybe I can convince you. And so
Absolutely.
thank you for all of your knowledge and all of your information. And to my audience, thank you for tuning into another episode. Stay curious, stay honest, and keep doing life your way.